Hello, I'm reading from Derek Bell's Faces at the Bottom of the Well, and I'm reading from the section Space Traders. Um, Space aliens, aliens come, they have resources for the United States, but they want all the black people. And that's the deal. 4 January, in a nationally televised address, the president sought to reassure both trade supporters that he was responding favorably to their strong messages and blacks and whites opposed to the trade, that he would not ignore their views. After the usual patriotic verbiage, the president said that just completed end of the century economic reports revealed that the nation to be in much worse shape than anyone had imagined. He summarized what he called the very grim figures and added that only massive new resources would save America from having to declare bankruptcy. On the face of it, our visitors from outer space have initiated their relationship with our country in a most unusual way. They are a foreign power and, as such, entitled to respect this nation has always granted to the family of nations on earth. It is not appropriate for us to prejudge this extraplanetary nation's offer. Thus, it is now receiving careful study and review by this administration. Blacks are doomed. Of course, I am aware of the sacrifice that some of our most highly regarded citizens would be asked to make in the proposed trade. While these citizens are of only one racial group, there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever to indicate that the selection was intended to discriminate against any race or religion or ethnic background. No decisions have been made and all options are under review. This much seems clear. The materials the traders have offered us are genuine and perform as promised. Early estimates indicate that if these materials were made available to this nation, they would solve our economic crisis, and we could look forward to a century of unparalleled prosperity. Whether the trade would allow a tax-free year for every American, as some of our citizens have hoped, is not certain, but I can promise that if the trade is approved, I will exercise my best efforts to make such a trade dividend a reality. Early that morning, the leaders of the Fortune 500 businesses, heads of banks, insurance companies, and similar entities boarded their well appointed corporate jets and flew to a remote Wyoming hunting lodge. They understood the president supported the trade despite his avowals that no decision had been made. They had come to discuss the trade offer's implications for big business. 5 January. Not content with just closing the doors on their not content with just closing the doors on their meeting as the anti-trade coalition had, the corporate leaders of America gathered for an absolutely hush-hush meeting. They were joined by the vice president and some of the wealthier members of Congress. The surroundings were beautiful, but the gathering of white males was somber. Corporate America faced a dilemma of its own making. Media polls, as well as ones privately funded by business, all reported tremendous public support for the trade. Unhappy but hardly unexpected news for the nation's richest and most powerful men. First, blacks represented 12% of the market and generally consumed much more of their income than did their white counterparts. No one wanted to send that portion of the market into outer space, not even for the social and practical benefits offered by the space traders. Even those benefits were a mixed blessing. Coal and oil companies expected to raise their prices as supply steadily decreased were not elated at the prospect of an inexhaustible energy source. It could quickly put them out of business. Similarly, businesses whose profits were based on sales in black ghetto communities or who supplied law enforcement agencies, prisons, and other such institutions faced substantial losses in sales. The real estate industry, for example, annually reaped uncounted millions in commissions on sales and rentals, inflated by the understanding that blacks would not be allowed to purchase or rent in an area. Even though these concerns were overshadowed by fears of what the huge influx of gold to pay all state debts would do to the economy or to the value of either the current money supply or gold. Though seldom acknowledging the fact, most business leaders understood that blacks were crucial in stabilizing the economy with its ever increasing disparity between the incomes of the rich and poor. They recognized that potentially turbulent unrest among those on the bottom was deflected by the continuing effort of poorer whites to ensure that they, at least, remained ahead of blacks. If blacks were removed from the society, working and middle class whites, deprived of their racial distraction, might look upward toward the top of the societal well and realize that they, as well as the blacks below them, suffered because of the gross disparities in opportunities and income. Many of these corporate leaders and their elected representatives had for years exploited poor whites' ignorance of their real enemy. Now, what had been a comforting insulation of their privilege and wealth posed a serious barrier to what a majority saw as a first priority, to persuade the country to reject the trade. A quick survey of the media and advertising representatives present, present was not encouraging. It would be quite a challenge, one network executive said, but we simply can't change this country's view about the superiority of whites and the inferiority of blacks in a week. I doubt we could do it in a decade. And there you go. We always know that the real divisions are between the haves and the have nots, but poor whites and black people can't, well, I could say really poor and working class white people cannot get over race. It's all they have, and they're not letting it go in this book, and they're not letting it go in this society. And now we have an added problem, black inferiority. There's a lot of black people who believe that they're worth less than they are. They don't value themselves properly. And no matter what you do or say or give them, they still feel like they're worth less. So that's where we are today. This book was very prophetic. Well, actually, nothing's really changed since the 90s. So I guess the book was of its time. And if anything, we just slid down, down, down. So thank you for your support. Until next time, take care of your mind, take care of your body, and please be safe out there.